Hello, crafty friends. My name is Jessica, and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a card using some alcohol markers and just this simple, beautiful background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. So we're going to go ahead and get started by inking up this background ink with some alcohol-friendly ink. I'm coloring on Neenah 80-pound cardstock Solar White, and I'm using Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink as this is Copic marker friendly. I'm going to say Copic marker, but I do not use Copics. I just default all alcohol markers to Copics, so I apologize in advance. So this is alcohol marker friendly, and I really enjoy this ink. I have used a couple others, but this one I have found as long as I heat set it before coloring that it will not smear. I've had a couple where they smear with colors like light pink and light yellow, and that's always really frustrating on those light colors to have them smear. So this is the one I like to use. I'm going to go ahead and heat set it off camera, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So I use Ohuhu markers because I am not a colorist. I'll be honest. I like coloring. It's just not something that I find that I'm particularly awesome at, or that I found that I wanted to invest a lot of money in to see if I was even interested. So I bought these markers a long time ago. It's probably been about 4 years, 3 or 4 years when they first kinda hit the market, and I did buy them off of Amazon, and I bought the 168 color pack. These markers have been sufficient for what I need to do, but as a content creator, I realize that they are probably not the best ones to be using. So I'm hoping to invest in some other markers in the future, which I'm looking at Olo markers right now, but it is going to be a while I save up in order to get those. So when I use these Ohuhu markers, I tend to do a 2-color combo for my coloring. And with these 2 color blends, they have been very sufficient for me in these floral colorings. I also have added in a third color, but you will find with these Ohuhu markers that it is hard to find a 3-color combo. I have better luck finding a 2-color combo that works well together, and then just making sure that I use the lightest color almost as the third color as I go over, maybe the middle portion and kind of treat it as the third color. So as we're getting started, I drew a little sun up in the right-hand corner there to give me the reminder of where the light source is coming from. Now, like I said, I am not a colorist, but I do know that light sources are helpful in coloring to determine where your shadows are and where your highlights are. So here I went ahead and colored all the berries with just a simple light gray color combo because I wanted them to be white. Now I'm just determining what color green that we're going to go ahead and use for majority of these leaves. The majority of the leaves are for the anemone flowers, and so I went with some lighter greens, a little more on the yellow side, and I'm just going in and making sure that I reference my light source as I turn my paper to color and getting in those blends. So how I like to do these blends is I like to go in with my lightest color, and then I'll go in with the darkest, and then I'll go over top with the lightest and pull that darkness into the initial light color to get that blend. If I'm finding that I want to create the lightest, keep the lightest color for the lightest color, I guess does that make sense? To get that third color, then I won't pull the color all the way up to the top of the image. One of the downfalls of these markers is the color number is only located on the caps. And as you see, I tend to hold the markers, keep them capped when I'm not using them, but sometimes I hold them and use them interchangeably, like right here. And then I forget which cap goes on which marker. And I have miscapped the markers. And then I'm stuck with one original cap and one cap from another marker. And I can't tell you what color is which. So the barrel does not have the color number on it. And so it can get really challenging if you're using the markers like this, where you're just kind of transferring them back and forth and you're thinking that you're capping the right one, but you're actually not. For the most part here, I think I kept them the same, but it can be challenging. So you see there, I did bring in a third color because I wanted the stems on the leaves to be a little bit darker. So I just pulled in a darker green and hit those because I wasn't getting it dark enough using the two color combo. So I'm just going through and coloring all the leaves, ensuring that I'm making the light sources appropriately. It can be a little challenging to remember where your light source is, especially when you're turning your paper like this. I had mentioned that earlier, but I like to color in motion, and so that's why I turn my paper a lot and just in it's there. I was like, "Ah, where'd my light source go?" It was a little lighter. I couldn't really see it, but I went ahead and drew it with my green to try to make it pop a little bit more. So one of the other ways that I have colored this background stamp before is I did use it around Christmas time when it came out, and I watercolored the whole image, and that was really fun. But another way that I like to use these large florals from Simon Says Stamp is I like to just color the negative or the background color and leave the florals and leaves all in white. That's a really fun look and a really easy way to get to know your stamps when they might seem a little intimidating. For people who aren't normal colorists, having all of these florals to color can be alarming or, can be hard to want to jump into. So I recommend just coloring the negative space and getting to know the stamp set on a different level. So there we are. We are complete with the leaves for the anemones. And now I'm kind of looking at what colors I want to move into next. I really loved these little lavender sprigs is what I think that they are. And so I'm going in with some purples to try to get those colored appropriately, remembering my light source. And I just, for these simple ones, I went over them all in one, and then I'm using that darker purple to go in at the bases of each little petal and just add a little bit of ink. But I did notice that they were very similar in color, so I do end up pulling in a darker purple here sometime later. I'm having a little moment. I'm like, is this the right purple or do I have the caps on the wrong markers again? Chances are they're probably on the wrong markers because, like I said, I hold them two in a hand sometimes and they get a little confusing. But here I am going in with the darker purple to intensify those shadows to ensure that there's some differentiation between them. As I'm coloring this, I'm loving just the simplicity of having the purple and the green vibrant colors. And so you'll see that here in a little bit that you could just leave this stamp like that and highlight those leaves and those what I'm calling lavender sprigs. And it looks really, really neat, just leaving the anemones white, the rest of the coloring white, and everything like that. So we're just going to finish this up really quick and then we'll move on to coloring the next thing. I'm going to go ahead and put some music on while we wrap up this coloring, and I hope to see you in a little bit. I hope you enjoyed that coloring. We're just finishing up here, and I thought I would jump on and talk about how I'm coloring these florals. I'm using two of these peachy pink colors, and I'm just going in with the lightest color, then over top with the darker color, and then adding in this third color before finishing off by going back over with the medium color and then the lightest color. Sometimes, like I said, I was able to get these three colors in order to blend them, but sometimes with these Ohuhu markers, there's only a two-color combo. So we're just going to go ahead and finish up doing the middle of the floral. I picked out some browns, and then that's it. I'm going to leave the background white and just really let these colored images shine. So now it's time to get going with the card. Originally, I thought I was going to use this Love Ya die, but as I was looking at it, I really loved the Oh Hello there and the bold, fun, playful type font for it. So I went ahead and pivoted to using that sentiment, and then we're going to go ahead and ink it up in some black Versamark ink so that it's sticky, and then use some clear embossing folder, not in folder, clear embossing powder on top to give it that little extra shine and dimension. I really like using this Versafine Clair Nocturne ink because it is sticky. So whenever I want a shiny, embossed sentiment, this is the one I'm reaching for to ensure that the powder adheres to it. So off camera, I'm going to go ahead and heat set that image. I'm going to do a quick cleanup. I always like to clean up afterwards using that pigment ink to ensure that my stamps are ready for the next time. And then now here we're going to build the card. I used a stitched rectangle die to cut this panel down to 4 by 5 1/4 to have that little white border. And now I'm just rotating it, kind of figuring out where I want to put that sentiment. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. This all too new foam tape is my absolute favorite for popping up background dies. It has the most perfect loft for me. I love the dimension that it gives. And you'll notice I am an over adhesor. I do not like my cards to get flat in the mail, so I will put all of the adhesive on to ensure that that is safe during mailing. I did also want to pop up the sentiment. I just love the dimension you get when you have all these different layers popped up. So here I am using Simon Says Stamp foam squares. These are the ones that aren't quite as lofty as the others. And I'm going to go ahead and pop the sentiment up too. We're really going to keep this card simple by popping up the sentiment and then adding just a few little gems, and then we're going to let the coloring kind of shine. I'm a little sad that I'm covering up that big floral, but it is the name of the game. When you're doing some stuff like this, I should have cut it out maybe a little bit slightly off when I cut it out with the rectangle stitch die so that we could highlight that floral a little bit more, but I love the way that it still came out. We're going to use these rainbow splash jewels. I end up using the ones that have a little bit of an iridescent to them. It's hard to see in this camera, but we're going to go ahead and do my 3 to 2 method I like to do with odd numbers. And then that's it. I appreciate you guys being here today. I hope you enjoyed this coloring on the card. Please subscribe, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I have links listed below. Thanks for being here.